Welcome to Budget MTG Decks. All magic fun, all cards under $1. I'm David, this is my homie Ruud.
Hi everybody, today we're going to talk about an effective and fun EDH deck you can build without spending a lot of money. Today's deck is going to be a life gain deck with of course a lot of life gain synergy. With all our decks there's just one additional build rule, and that is that all the cards in the deck need to be under $1 in price. With one exception, and that is that our commander can be over $1 in price, because we need some very cool commanders to start off the deck.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at our commander.
Yeah, let's have a look. Today we have an awesome commander. We have Oloro, Ageless Ascetic. For 3 colorless, a white mana, blue mana, and a black mana, we get a 4/5 legendary giant soldier. The great thing about Oloro is he's going to be giving us a lot of consistent life gain, because during each of our upkeep, we get to gain 2 life, whether Oloro is in the command zone, so we haven't cast him yet, or he's on the battlefield. During our upkeep, we will be getting 2 life. On top of that, if he is on the battlefield, whenever we do gain life, we can pay a mana, and we get to draw a card, and all our opponents lose a life. So basically the role of this commander is going to be to give us consistent life gain. Every turn we're always going to be getting a little bit of life, and on top of that also card advantage, because as soon as he's on the table, we're going to be able to pay mana every time we gain life and drawing cards, and doing a little bit of damage to our opponents as well.
Yeah.
To make this work, what kind of cards are we going to be needing?
Besides the commander, we have 29 life gain cards. Aside from our commander life gain, we have some other life gain of course. And then we have 15 life or life gain synergy cards. That will be cards that have us pay life to draw cards, and cards that get bigger whenever we gain life or do something awesome when we gain life. We have 9 removal cards, mostly exile cards. We have 6 cards that make our other creatures unblockable or are unblockable themselves. And we have 40 land cards.
Yeah. Well, that's all very good, but what is the order in which we're going to be casting these spells in an ideal scenario? So what's the turn progression?
Turn 1 and turn 2 we'll be casting some life gain creatures, which give us life every turn, or maybe some extort, different cards. Turn 3 we will be casting some life synergy cards, give us some advantage whenever we gain life. Turn 4 we might be casting some removal, if needed of course, maybe some big commander is out, you want to remove it. Turn 5 we will be casting some card draw, and turn 6 we will have commander cards, also unblockable cards, and well of course just one commander card. And also maybe some bombs, maybe some more removal. I think the great thing about Oloro is that it's not necessary to have him on the table. Of course he has a pretty steep casting cost, 6 mana. The most important thing he does is give you access to card draw, so card advantage. And each opponent loses 1 life thing, not that big,
No.
Could be helpful but not that much. But when he's not there, he does his most important job is giving you life. And he also does that when he's in the command zone, so well, you will only have white, blue and black 4/5 giant soldier when you cast him, and of course the card draw.
Yeah.
So that makes it not that important. So the other cards are more important to have on the table than our commander. So in a lot of scenarios you won't be casting Oloro turn 6, I think.
Yeah, there could be something that's even better in that case, but it's nice to have the option, especially if you don't have a card draw spells.
Engine. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I understand is at the beginning of the game we're going to be setting up the board state so we can get a lot of life, a lot of extra life, and later on in the game we're going to be using that life to win the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright. So we're talking about life gain, so let's have a look at the life gain cards. We divided the life gain cards into extort cards, lifelink cards, and other cards that give us life. We're first going to be looking at the extort cards. And we have a Thrall Parasite for 1 black mana, a little 1/1 guy with Extort.
Yeah, Extort is a very nice ability for this deck. It states that whenever you cast a spell, so it can be anything, you can pay an additional white or black, and then each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain life equal to the life lost that way. So that means when you have 3 opponents, each one loses 1 life, you gain 3 life, which is pretty big.
Yeah.
This also works whenever, well, when you cast the spell, of course, so even when it gets countered, the Extort will still trigger.
Yeah.
This has another cool ability, this card, aside from the Extort. It states that you can tap him and pay 2 life, which won't be a problem in this deck, to remove a counter from target non-land permanent. Mostly that would be +1/+1 counters,
Yeah.
sometimes it could be something else, which is very nice against a lot of decks, especially against a deck like Marchesa, which we'll be seeing next season. Maybe I'm giving away too much, David, but
It's okay, it's okay. I'll cut it out of the video.
Okay. Which is a very nice ability.
Yeah, absolutely. Another good card is a Syndic of Tithes for a colorless and a white. We get a 2/2 guy, so basically we get a grizzly bear with Extort.
Pretty simple.
Yeah. Basilica's Screecher costs a colorless and a black. We get a 1/2 little flying bat with Extort.
Yeah, some evasion.
Not too shabby. Tithe Drinker I like very much. For a white mana and a black mana, we get a 2/1 with Lifelink and Extort. So it's basically a Child of Night, and on top of that we get Extort.
Yeah, so basically 2 life gain cards all in one, Extort and Lifelink.
Yeah, that's right. Blind Obedience is a great card. For a colorless and a white, we get an enchantment with which has Extort on it, and on top of that it states that artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped.
Yeah, which is very nice, especially like the enchantments or the artifacts that can tap right away, mana stones or something, can do that right away, and of course the creatures won't be able to block, and if they have haste they won't be able to attack that turn either.
Yeah, massive value from Blind Obedience. Then we get Basilica Guards. For 2 colorless and a white, we just get a 1/4 defender with Extort. It's nothing too crazy.
No, just a defender. We actually use it more because of the Extort.
That's right. Then we get Kingpin's Pet. For a colorless, a white and a black, we get a 2/2 little flying Extort guy.
Yeah, 2 evasion power, very nice.
Yeah. Knight of Obligation costs 3 colorless and a white, so it's a little bit expensive. You get a 2/4 for that with Vigilance and Extort.
Yeah, so this can attack and block, pretty big buck, and 2 power. So this can be a problem for opponents that have a lot of small creatures.
Yeah, that's right. Cryptghast is awesome. It's 3 colorless and a black, so for 4 mana we get a 2/2 guy with Extort, of course, because these are the Extort cards. But it also states that whenever you tap a swamp for mana, you get an additional black mana in your mana pool.
Yeah, in a lot of decks this could be very big. In this deck it's not that big because we only have 8 swamps. We do have a Terramorphic Expanse and an Evolving Wilds which could search for a swamp.
Yeah.
So mostly we will have only 1 or 2 swamps, which is already pretty nice, getting some extra mana. But of course this is bigger in a mono black deck. But still, yeah.
Still for 4 we get the Extort trigger and some additional mana, usually at least 1 or 2 extra mana.
Yeah.
Viscopa Confessor. For 3 colorless, a white and a black, we get a 1/3 little Extort guy. This one has a special ability when he enters the battlefield.
Yeah, when he enters you can pay an amount of life. One opponent has to reveal cards from his hand equal to the amount of life paid this way. So mostly we'll just pay to see all cards. It's like well, maybe 5 or 6 cards, maybe 7. You can make him discard one of those cards, or actually exile one of those cards. It is.
It's even bigger.
Yeah, it's even bigger. So well, that's pretty nice to remove the biggest threat from his or her hand.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it has Extort.
Yeah, not bad. Treasury Thrall does a lot of work. For 4 colorless, a white and a black, we get a 4/4 Extort guy. And on top of that, whenever this creature attacks, you get to return a artifact, creature, or enchantment from your graveyard back to your hand.
Yeah, this is very nice. It already works when he attacks, so he doesn't even have to get through. So if you can make him survive, or maybe give him Unblockable or something, so he gets through and survives, you will be getting back all your permanents, aside from lands and well, maybe Planeswalkers, which will not be in our decks, from your graveyard to your hand. So this is a lot of card advantage, and of course the Extort trigger.
Yeah, not bad. Pontiff of Blight. For 4 colorless and 2 black gives us a 2/7. I mean 7 for a butt. that's huge.
That
That stops pretty much everything. On top of that, it's got Extort, obviously, and it also states that other creatures you control also have Extort.
Yeah, could be very nice if you don't have a lot of Extort and you have the extra mana. All your creatures will have Extort, and on top of that, each creature that already has Extort has an additional trigger of Extort, because Extort is not redundant. So when you have, for example, Viscopa Confessor, it will have 2 times Extort.
Yeah, awesome. Then we move on to the Lifelink cards. The first one is Alabaster Mage for a colorless and a white. We get a 2/1 little guy that states you can pay a colorless and a white, and then you can target creature you control gains Lifelink.
Yeah, which is pretty nice. We have some big threats, and of course the life gain synergy we will see later. When you give something big Lifelink, it will give you a lot of advantage.
Yeah,
nice.
Absolutely. Viscopa Guild Mage is quite similar for a white mana and a black mana. We get a 2/2. This one states you can pay a colorless, a white, or a black. Target creature gains Lifelink till the end of turn, so that means you can do that on any creature you want. And another ability which states that you can pay a colorless, a white, or a black, and then whenever you gain life this turn, all opponents or each opponent loses that much life.
Yeah, especially in this deck, this is a very great combo card, could give you some very big combos. We'll see a little bit later, we'll see some creatures that could become like 40-40. Well, when you give that creature lifelink, and whenever you gain life, each opponent loses that much life, each opponent will lose 40 life.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big combo. This card could do that. It's a pretty small card, just 2 mana, so a very nice card in this deck.
Yeah, it does massive amounts of work.
And you can even do this before Oloro's you gain 2 life triggers.
Yeah.
So that even makes you well, gain advantage from just Oloro in the command zone.
Because you can tap mana during your upkeep. Then we go to Jurabai Murklurker. For 2 colorless and a blue, we get a 1/3 little guy who actually gets +1/+1 if you control the swamp. Pretty good chance we will have one at some point. But that's not why we have this little guy. It's because you can pay a colorless and a black, and then target creature gains lifelink to the end of turn. So it's actually the same as the Alabaster Mage.
Yeah, but he gets removed a little less easily because he has 3 or 4 toughness.
Yeah, pretty good. You also pay a little bit more mana for that. Another lifelink card is an enchantment. We don't have a lot of enchantments that give creatures lifelink because of the chance that you can cast on a creature and then the creature gets removed and you get 2 for 1 and then you're at a card disadvantage. But we do have Spirit Loop for a colorless and a white, and you can enchant a creature. That creature will have, whenever this creature deals damage, you gain that much life. And on top of that, when Spirit Loop gets put into your graveyard, you get to return it to your hand.
Yeah, which is pretty big, so the opponent can't make you lose 2 cards at once. Well, this also has an additional pro to this card, and that is that this is not lifelink. So if a card has lifelink, it will have this too. So it's sort of 2 instances of lifelink, which normally you can't have. So this could combo out pretty nicely with, for example, the Viscopa Confessor or the other cards that make a creature gain lifelink.
Yeah.
Well, pretty big.
Double lifelink, why not? Victory's Herald is next for 3 colorless and 3 white mana. It's kind of difficult to cast in a 3-color deck, but definitely by the time you've got 6 mana or 7 mana when you want to be casting this guy, you should have it. You get a 4/4 Flying Angel, and also states that when Victory's Herald attacks, each other creature attacking gains flying and lifelink.
Yeah, this is very big. It's a bomb. All your creatures will have evasion. On top of that, Spirit Loop will still trigger if it's on the table. And this could also combo out pretty nicely with Viscopa Guild Mage.
Yeah.
Well, if you attack with like 3 or 4 creatures, deal 12 or 30, maybe more damage. All your creatures have lifelink. You gain that much life. You will also deal that much damage, equal to the amount of life you gain to each opponent. So that's a nice combo too.
Yeah, it's gonna get ugly. It's gonna get ugly. Vampire Nighthawk is next for a colorless and 2 black. It's one of the probably best uncommon black creatures there are. You get a 2/3 flying, death-touching, life-linking vampire. Yeah, what doesn't this guy do?
Yeah, it's a pretty nice spell. It has evasion. It can be removal against pretty big flying creatures. if they attack, so they won't attack you with their big threats, unless they have, of course, something like indestructible or regenerate or first strike maybe. But well, this is pretty bad for people that have big flyers, and they won't attack you because they don't want to lose their big flyers to just this 3 mana guy.
Yeah, on top of that, even if you were to block and both creatures die, Vampire Nighthawk still gives you the 2 life with his lifelink. Not bad. Then we get the Chancellor of the Dross for 4 colorless and 3 black mana. We get a 6/6 flying lifelinker. That guy's going to be gaining you a lot of life every time the Chancellor connects. But on top of that, it also has something special when you have him in your opening hand.
Yeah, when you have it in your opening hand, you can reveal it to your opponents. When you do that, you gain, well, each opponent loses 3 life. So if there's 3 opponents, they will all lose 3 life. You gain life equal to the life lost this way, which could be 9 life. Well, if you do this, turn 1 you will have 51 life at least. Maybe you even bring in a land that gains you 1 life. So that's very annoying having 51 life right from the bat.
Yeah, exactly. The last of the lifelink cards is really great. Sphinx of the Steel Wind for 5 colorless, a white, a blue, and a black. So the casting cost is hefty. But you do get a 6/6 flying, first strike, vigilance, I'm going to take a break, lifelink, protection from red, and protection from green.
Yeah. This is very relevant, the protection. It has a lot of stuff. It's very hard to remove, even Dead Touch, like the card we just talked about, the Vampire Nighthawk, won't remove him because he has first strike. He also has vigilance, so he can just block. The protection from red and green is also very relevant because there are some cards that, well, red can direct damage, kill him from the sky, and green has destroy target flying creature or some damage to flying creatures.
Yeah, plummet, for example.
Yeah. It even survives a Doomblade test, which states destroy target non-black creature. This creature is black, so it will survive that. Well, pretty annoying. It can only be removed by some removal spells.
Yeah, like for example an Oblivion Ring or something from white. But
it is 8 mana, but still.
It is 8 mana, but the title that I said, what doesn't Vampire Nighthawk do, I think we should go and we should give it on to the Sphinx of the Steel Wind, because the real question is, what doesn't the Sphinx of the Steel Wind do?
Exactly.
It's amazing. Then we move on to the other life gain cards. The first one, very popular, Soul's Attendant. For a white mana, we get a 1/1 little guy that states whenever another creature enters the battlefield, we gain a life.
Yeah, very nice, especially against decks that produce a lot of creatures, token decks maybe. You know, you will be gaining loads of life from this card.
Yeah, same as Soul Warden, exactly the same. Suture Priest is a little bit different. For a colorless and a white mana, we get a 1/1 guy that states that whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life. So same as Soul Warden or Soul's Attendant. But whenever a creature enters under your opponent's control, they lose a life.
Yeah. David really likes this card.
I really like this card. Yeah,
you like it more than the Soul's Attendant and the Soul Warden, I think. I think the others are a little bit better in this deck because it really needs a lot of life link or life gain. Well, this could be pretty big. It only gains you life when you put on a creature, which will not be that many creatures. But when you play against maybe another time a token deck, as I just said before, it could have that opponent lose a lot of life from all the small guys, which is annoying.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeps that a little bit under control. Then we get Shattered Angel for 3 colorless and 2 white. We get a 3/3 flyer, so a relevant body with good evasion. On top of that, whenever a land comes in under your opponent's control, you get to gain 3 life.
Yeah, this is pretty big. It gains you in a 4-player game. It gains you 9 life a turn. Well, before your next turn, of course.
Yeah.
So, and it's a 3/3 flyer. Nice.
Yeah. If everybody hits their land drops, which they should be doing, and if they're not, they're losing the game most likely anyway. So you're gaining a lot of life. Great card is Chalice of Life. Very flavorful. Fits in this deck very well. For 3 colorless, we get a artifact that you can tap and get 1 life for. You think, not that interesting. But if you have at least 10 more life than when you started, then you get to transform Chalice of Life, and Chalice of Life becomes Chalice of Death.
Yeah, this is a very big card, especially when it transforms, of course, which normally it will when you put it down turn 3. Sometimes it will already transform, maybe turn 4 it will transform. And then it's a pretty big clock, because each turn you can make target opponent lose 5 life. So if he loses no life at all from any other source, it will be an 8 turn clock, but he will lose some life from other sources, so it will be even a bigger clock.
Yeah.
So very nice card.
Yeah, very nice. Always good to see it on the table. Augury Adept is also an awesome card for a colorless and 2 hybrid mana, either white or blue. We get a 2/2 little guy that states that whenever Augury Adept deals combat damage to an opponent, you get to look at the top card of your library. You gain amount of life equal to the card's converted mana cost, and you get to keep that card, put it into your hand.
Yeah, this is very big. This is actually a bomb in this deck, especially when you have it in addition to some unblockable card, which we will see later. This will just gain you a lot of life and a lot of card advantage. While most cards will make you pay life to draw cards, this will actually gain you life to draw cards.
Pretty amazing. Yeah, great card to make unblockable. Not unlike Daxos of Meletis. For a colorless, a white, and a blue, we get a 2/2 guy as well. This guy has kind of already a little bit of evasion by himself, because Daxos can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. On top of that, when Daxos of Meletis deals combat damage to an opponent, you get to exile the top card of your opponent's library, so the one you did damage to. Look at it, you gain life equal to its converted mana cost, just like with the Augury Adept, and on top of that, you're allowed to cast it with any type of mana you want, if you have the mana available.
Yeah, this is also a very nice card, also a bomb aside to the Augury Adept. If you compare the two, it's pretty hard to do that, because they have very different stuff. Well, Daxos of Meletis can only be killed, of course, by a 2 power creature or a death touch creature, because creatures with 3 or more power can't block it. So in a lot of cases he will be able to get through, or at least survive.
Unless, of course, they block with 3 1/1 creatures, for example.
That is true.
That should be possible.
Yeah, of course, that's possible. There are some cases when he could die, but he has the evasion. On the other hand, this one makes you exile a card from an opponent's library, which is a little less useful, because well, maybe it's something you can't use. You have to cast it right away. Maybe you can't. It might be a big card like 6 mana. While the Augury Adept just puts the card into your hand, so you can cast it later on if you like. So it's very hard to compare to, but I think they're just as good.
Yeah. Let's say the lesson here is, if you've got Daxos and you're going to attack with him, don't cast your spells just yet. Just wait and see what happens first, and do it in your second main phase. Path of Bravery is an enchantment for 2 colorless and a white. It states that as long as your life total is greater than or equal to your starting life total, which it almost always is, because you're gaining life like crazy, creatures you control get +1/+1, which means that it's basically a glorious anthem. Then in addition to that, whenever 1 or more creatures of yours attack, you gain life equal to the amount of creatures attacking. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, pretty nice. It won't be a lot of creatures attacking, but in most cases it will be some. Gaining the life is very nice, especially of course with, for example, we just talked about Daxos of Meletis. If he is 3/3, he's even harder to remove, because it can still only be blocked by 2 power creatures with maximum 2 power. So it's even harder to block him. If you are losing the game, late game, you could have less than your starting life total. Well, then it's not going to work anymore. So that's a little downside, but still a very big card in this deck.
Yeah, exactly. Then we get to the last of the other cards that gain us life, and that is the Patron of the Kitsune. For 4 colorless mana and 2 white, we get a 5/6 guy, pretty big guy, which states that whenever a creature attacks, you may gain a life. So it's like the Path of Bravery, except it's not only for your creatures, but it's any creatures.
Yeah, which will happen a lot. The opponents will attack with their creatures, you will gain life. You gain a lot of life from this guy, and on top of that, it's a very big threat. It's a 5/6, big blocker or big attacker. It has Fox Offering. We won't go into that because we cannot use that in this deck.
Yeah.
It's still a nice card.
Yeah, not relevant the Fox Offering in this case, but it's really good for the rest. But it's all very nice and good and well that we are gaining so much life, because clearly with all the Extort and the Lifelink and all the other cards we've been looking at, we're going to be gaining loads and loads of life, but we don't win the game just by having a lot of life. You can have 200 life, 300 life, but it doesn't mean that you're going to win the game anytime soon. So we need to look at the cards that allow us to do something with that life. So let's have a look at the life synergy cards. We've divided the life synergy cards into card draw, creature growth, and utility cards. Let's have a look at the card draw cards first. We start off with Dark Tutelage, a great black enchantment for 2 colorless and a black. It states that at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to show the top card of your library, lose life equal to its converted mana cost, and then put that card into your hand.
Yeah, this is a very nice enchantment. Of course, a very good card draw engine. From turn 4 onwards, you will be drawing cards, and well, on an average of 2 or 3 life a turn, of course, including the lands, from which you will lose no life at all. Well, this is very nice because the life loss is not that much of a problem in this deck.
No, that's true. Graveborn Muse is also a great engine for 2 colorless and 2 black. We get a little 3/3 zombie, and it says that at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose X life and you draw X cards, where X is the number of zombies you have. So basically, it just says at the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card and you lose a life.
Yeah, this is of course also a very good card. You can compare it to Dark Tutelage, although they do have a lot of different things they do. With this one, you don't have to show the card, which is good. Of course, it's a creature, just a 3/3, which could be nice. On the other hand, it can be removed more easily than an enchantment against normal commander decks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course you lose only 1 life, and the Dark Tutelage loses you probably 2 or 3 life on an average.
Yeah, about. Next card is Bloodgift Demon, very similar to the Graveborn Muse. For 3 colorless and 2 black, we get a 5/4 flying demon, already huge creature with evasion. It's going to be doing physical damage quite frequently. It also states that at the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card and you lose a life.
Yeah, pretty simple. Looks a little bit like the Graveborn Muse, but it has flying and is bigger. Very nice.
Yeah. The next card is Duskmantle Seer. For 2 colorless, a blue, and a black. We get a 4/4 flyer, which states that at the beginning of your upkeep, not only you, but everybody shows the top card of their library. They lose life equal to its converted mana cost, and you get to draw that card. So it's basically a Dark Tutelage on a stick.
Yeah, and of course the opponents can draw those cards too, but they also lose life just like you, and for them it's a bigger problem to lose life. So this is a very big card. For just 4 mana 4/4 flyer is already good enough.
Yeah.
And in this deck this is very, very good. So this works pretty well. Yeah, of course, well, it's just beneath $1. So I was actually surprised it was beneath $1.
It's that good.
Yeah.
It really is. Next card is Well of Lost Dreams. For 4 colorless mana, we get a nice little artifact that states basically whenever you gain life, you can pay X, where X is the amount of life or less, and you can draw that many cards.
Yeah, this starts, well, right turn 4 you have this, turn 5 you will gain 2 life from Oloro in your command zone, and then you can just pay 2 mana a turn to draw 2 additional cards, which basically make you hit your land drop each turn. And of course you don't really have to cast Oloro when you have this, because, well, it's just a little bit of an extra. It's just a creature. I think you will be you have much more use with other cards in your hand.
Yeah.
When you have this.
Basically, the biggest benefit you get from Oloro versus this card is you actually are getting life, which you need to be able to draw the cards. And Oloro already does that when he's in the command zone, so there's really no need. Next card is Phyrexian Reclamation. For a black mana, we get an enchantment that states pay a colorless, a black, and 2 life. And you can return target creature card from your graveyard back to your hand. Now this card, there's a reason why it's almost in every black commander deck.
Yeah, you can just get back the best creature card in your graveyard each turn, which is not necessarily the biggest card. Just the best. Might be that you really need the Soul Warden, which is very nice in this deck, of course.
Yeah.
You can just get that back and cast it again for 1 mana. Of course it gets into play very early on in the game. It won't do that much work because normally we won't have any creatures in the graveyard early on. Maybe against a mill deck, but that doesn't happen that often. So it's actually a very good late game, and early game it's just already there.
Yeah, on top of that, since it's repeatable, you can do it as many times as you want. The only downside is you have to pay 2 mana for it, because having to pay 2 life is not much of an issue for us. Then we move on to the creature growth cards. It's kind of a really weird name why we call it this, but it's basically cards that allow creatures to be big or grow big because of the fact that we're getting so much life. The first one, I think this will explain it, Ayani's Pridemate for a colorless and a white. We get a 2/2, so it's basically a grizzly bear. On top of that, whenever you gain life, you get to add a +1/+1 counter to Ayani's Pridemate.
Yeah, this is a very big card. It's only 2 mana and it will grow insanely big. Well, of course, each turn you gain one instance of 2 life, so that already makes him a 3/3 at turn 3. You have a lot of lands that gain you life, and of course there are a lot of other cards that also gain you life. Actually, David here played it one time at turn 2 with Soul Warden or Soul's Attendant on battlefield turn 1, and then turn 3 it was already a 12/12 because the opponents put down some creatures and he gained like 10 times 1 or 2 life.
Yeah, and that little guy did a lot of work. I was very happy with him until he got destroyed. But what do you expect with a 12/12 on the battlefield so early?
Yeah.
Did good work in the meantime. Next card is Sunbond for 3 colorless and a white mana. It's an enchantment. It's an aura enchantment, so you pop it on one of your guys, and then every time you gain life, that creature gains the amount of counters equal to that amount of life.
Yeah, this is a very big bomb in this deck. Of course, there's the downside that when the creature gets removed, this gets removed too. Yeah, it's just that big a bomb that we really had to include it. It's gonna grow so insanely big. You can just pop it on a small creature, preferably one with Lifelink, so it will make itself bigger. Could be on a bigger creature, but then you really make it a very, very big removal target. Yeah. Well, you actually put it on the Vampire Nighthawk.
Yeah, my favorite target is usually if I have the availability to pop it on a Vampire Nighthawk, because it's very cheap. You pop Vampire Nighthawk down on turn 3, then on turn 4 you can put down the Sunbond, and then from that turn on, immediately on turn 4 I can start attacking, doing 2 points of damage, gaining 2 counters, and next turn repeating that and growing exponentially.
Yeah, so actually you put it on and already at turn 4 it will be a 4 or 5, and then the next turn it will already grow at the beginning of the turn from Oloro, gain 2 lives, so you make it a 6/7. When it attacks, 6 life gain damage, it's a 12, 13 and so on.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
We move on to Cradle of Vitality for 3 colorless and a white mana. We get an enchantment. You just pop it down on the table. It's not an aura. It says whenever you gain life, you may pay a colorless and a white, and then put that many +1/+1 counters on target creature.
Yeah, you could also compare this with Sunbond. It has a lot of pros and cons when you compare it. Of course, it doesn't get removed when a creature gets removed because it's not an aura, but you do have to pay 2 mana for each instance of life gain to put that many +1/+1 counters on a creature. Well, most times you will not gain like 5, it's mostly all sorts of instances of 1 or 2 life. Well, you don't want to use it for that because it's just too much mana for just a little bit of more counters to make a creature bigger.
Yeah.
You really want to do it when you gain like 5 or more life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Then we get to a really big creature. Awesome card. Sarah Avatar for 4 colorless and 3 white. We get a XX creature where X is your life total.
Yeah. This is very nice. Of course, when with Oloro your life total is almost always very big. When you're already losing the game, this card is not going to help you win it anymore.
No.
That's maybe a downside, but especially with this card there's a lot of ways to combo out on it. Especially with the card I already described with Viscopa Guildmage. When this is like a 40/40 and you give it lifelink with the Viscopa Guildmage, and then also pay 3 mana to make each opponent lose life whenever you gain life. Well, everybody loses 40 life.
That's
which is game.
That's game. Yeah, absolutely. And also we have to remember that when it goes into our graveyard, whether it dies or gets milled, it gets shuffled back into your library.
Yeah.
So it's never going to be a target for the Friction Reclamation card. Then we go to the next card, Minion of the Waste for 3 colorless and 3 black. We also get an XX creature. But this time we have to pay life for this creature to get that much power and toughness. So let's say you have 50 life, you pay 25 life, so you go down to 25, and then this creature becomes a 25/25 with trample.
Yeah, this is of course a little different than the Sarah Avatar. It does have trample, but you have to pay a lot of life to make him big. you might want to do like 20 or 25, something like that. Well, of course, it's a little hard to cast in this deck because it's 3 black and we have most sources of white mana. Then second, we have some sources of black mana, and then third, we have less sources of blue mana. So it's a little hard to cast, but mostly you will have 3 black.
Yeah, also because the deck is not only gaining life, it's also based around a lot of drawing cards.
Yeah, so you will have enough.
Yeah.
Lands.
Then move on to the utility cards. First one is my favorite card to see in my hand when you start the game in your opening hand. Angelic Accord for 3 colorless and a white. It's an enchantment that states at the beginning of each end step, if you gain 4 or more life, you get to pop down a 4/4 flying angel.
Yeah, this is very nice. Of course, in your own turn you will almost always gain 4 life, so you will pop down 1 angel, which is already enough to make this card do enough work for 4 mana. But in a lot of cases, of course, you have enough sources, enough possibilities to gain some life in the opponent's turns. So in their turns, it might be Shattered Angel. When they pop down a land, you gain 3 life. Maybe you have Soul Warren, Soul's Attendant. When they put down creatures, you gain life. And there's also stuff that, well, instant speed gains you life, like Extort, of course, when you kill a creature or exile a creature on their turn. So there's a lot of possibilities to even gain more than 1 angel a turn.
Yeah.
And of course they can duplicate themselves, which David has done sometimes.
Yeah, it's actually a lot of fun. If you have a source to give one of your creatures lifelink, you just give it to the angels. The angel is 4/4, which means that if you attack with the angel, even if it doesn't survive the combat, it will have done 4 damage, and that means it got 4 life, and hence at the end of the turn you get another 4/4 flying angel, which is self-replicating, which is really nice.
Yeah, of course you can always use it blocking when you give an angel lifelink when it's untapped, of course, and you can block with it in the opponent's turn to gain an angel in the opponent's turn.
Yeah, that's great. Next card is Plague of Vermin for 6 mana, 6 colorless and 1 black, so for 7 mana total we get a sorcery that states starting with you, you pay any amount of life, and it goes around the table like that as many times until people decide to stop paying life, and then everybody pays that life and then gets that many 1/1 rat tokens.
Yeah, this is of course very big. There's some combos in this card too. Of course, with the Soul Warren and Soul's Attendant again, you can just pay all your life except for 1 life, and then you lose that many life, and when they get onto the table you will gain all your life back again.
Yeah.
Of course, unless it gets removed in the meantime, then you will have a very big problem because your life total will be 1. Yeah. So you might not want to do that when you're afraid of some removal.
Yeah, or if somebody has a ping around the table and they can ping 1 point of damage to you at instant speed.
Yeah.
Rookie mistake. Then we get to the next card, a Righteous Aura for a colorless and a white. That's an awesome enchantment for, you get to pay a white mana, 2 life. Then it states next time a source of your choice, it doesn't say target, it would deal damage to you, you get to prevent that damage.
Yeah, this is actually a very, very big card in this deck, because most cases when we do lose, it's against commander damage, because this deck is vulnerable against that. You can't gain back damage, commander damage of course. But with this thing, it doesn't even target, so just whenever it happens, even if it has hexproof or something, you can just prevent that damage. I'm not allowed to give too many stuff away, but might be that the next deck will be a Voltron deck, or something just like. It's not actually Voltron, but
no.
might be good, and this will work very well against that deck. It just prevents all the damage done by the commander, which will be more than 20.
Yeah.
So, well, very nice deck.
You have to
check. Very nice card.
You'll have to check out the next episode to see what that is. And we get to the last card of the utility ones. That's a Magister Sphinx for 4 colorless, a white, a blue, and a black. We get a 5/5 flyer. And it states that when Magister Sphinx enters the battlefield, target player's life becomes 10. That's crazy.
Yeah, I actually like this card a lot. David, little less, because he, well, maybe thinks it's not.
I think it's powerful, but I feel like this deck should be more about gaining life, and this card fits in flavor-wise quite well in making that discrepancy extra obvious, and it really wins games.
Yeah, it wins a lot of games. I did this a lot of times when somebody is at a high life total. I make his life 10, maybe I kill him myself, or maybe it goes around the table before the turn gets to him and he dies before his own turn. It was just annoying for him. It's nice, yeah.
It's absolutely very nice. Well, that's what we can do with the life, which is very nice. We got on our life cards that gain us life. We know what to do with that life. But sometimes while we're doing that, while we're playing around that, people are being very annoying with creatures or enchantments or artifacts that are getting in the way. And we need some way to remove those things so that we can get on and build our board presence and our state to the level where we want to get. So yeah, let's have a look at the removal cards. We divided the removal cards into exile cards and destruction cards. We'll start with the exile cards. First we got Journey to Nowhere, awesome card for a colorless and a white. We get a nice little enchantment that states when Journey to Nowhere enters the battlefield, exile target creature. When Journey to Nowhere leaves the battlefield, return that creature back to the battlefield under its owner's control.
Yeah, it's just 2 mana, so a very nice exile card. Of course the downside, when it gets removed, of course the creature gets back to the battlefield under the opponent's control. And of course it can only exile a creature in contrast to the next card.
Yeah, which is Oblivion Ring for 2 colorless and a white. It's basically the same except it's any non-land permanent.
Exactly, and it's 3 mana.
And it's 3 mana. This does great work. Then we've got Detention Sphere for a colorless, a white, and a blue. It's basically Oblivion Ring, but it's got a little bit more text on it. It says when it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent, but it says also not named Detention Sphere and all other permanents with the same name as that permanent. So it actually removes, yeah, all let's say tokens if they would all have the same name.
In Commander you can't have 2 cards of the same name. Unless of course there's 2 decks with the same card. Could happen.
Yeah.
And well, like David already said, token decks, well, it can be very annoying. All the goblins, all the elves, tokens get removed.
Yeah, exactly. Once again, if you remove this Detention Sphere, then the cards return back to the battlefield, except for, once again, tokens who would be gone after that. We go on to Unmake, an awesome card for 3 hybrid mana, so you can pay either white or black for it in the 3 mana. And it says exile target creature. How simple can it be?
Yeah, this is ideal for this deck because most sources are white or black. So this is very easy to cast in this deck, and it stays away the creature. It's instant speed, unlike the enchantments. And of course, well, you can't remove the enchantment to get the creature back. It's just gone.
It's gone with Unmake. The last one of the exile cards is Curse of the Swine for X and 2 blue. You get to exile X target creatures, and each opponent puts down a 2/2 green boar creature token in its stead for the creature that got removed. When you have to remove a whole bunch of creatures and they've got indestructible or something else that's stopping you from just outright destroying them, this is the card you want.
Yeah, of course, Oloro also works against regenerate. So this is very nice. That's why we also added all the exile cards. We have a lot of access to these cards in our Esper color combination, so we did that. This is just mass removal. They do get to put back some 2/2 boars, but who wants them when they have a flying trample 6/6 ragdolls on the table?
Exactly. On top of that, it could be that everybody says, I'm going to attack you with my boars, and you do take, I don't know, 6 or more damage. Taking regular damage is not an issue for this deck.
No.
So it's really not a bad part. Then we move on to the destruction cards. We've got a little guy that does a lot of work, Intrepid Hero, for 2 colorless and a white. It's just a 1/1, but it states that you can tap him and then destroy target creature with power 4 or greater.
Yeah, this is just very annoying. Most commander decks have some big creatures, so they will have to get rid of this one to have their creatures remain on the battlefield before they can remove your bigger threats. And well, when it doesn't get removed, you just remove all their big threats in a few turns.
Yeah, exactly. Tragic Slip is next for a black mana. It's instant speed, and it states that target creature gets -1/-1 till the end of the turn. But it also has Morbid, which states that that creature gets -13 if a creature died this turn.
Yeah, which is awesome for just 1 mana at instant speed, and -13 of course. Well, it also removes all the indestructible creatures again, all the creatures that could regenerate. Just annoying.
Yeah, it gets rid of pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Then we get to the last one, Slaughter for 2 colorless and 2 black. Instant speed as well. It says destroy target non-black creature. That creature cannot be regenerated this turn. That's pretty nice. That creature cannot be regenerated. Sometimes there's black creatures, so you don't want to have only cards like Doomblade that say destroy target non-black creature, but this one has buyback, pay for life.
Yeah, this is very nice in this deck. Pay the 4 life is not an issue. You just can keep on removing cards for 4 mana each turn. Maybe even 2 times a turn could happen.
Yeah.
Well, we hate the non-black creature part. Actually, he does mostly.
Yeah. I believe in more versatility, but you can't argue with having this effect repeatable.
Yeah, it's very nice in this deck. It's very thematic, so that's why it's in.
It's in, and it does good work. Then we get to the actual last destruction card. I misspoke earlier. It's called Killing Wave for X and black. For each creature, its controller sacrifices it unless he or she pays X. So you basically pump a bunch of mana into this, you pay the life for your creatures, and everybody else pretty much has to sack everything.
Yeah, you don't have that many creatures in this deck. Most decks have more creatures on the battlefield at the time you will do this, and they will have less life than you have, so it's more of an issue for them to lose the life, and also more of an issue to lose the creatures, because it might be some big creatures, some big stuff. So this is a very, very big card in this deck.
Yeah, even if you cast this at 6 mana and you make everybody pay 5 life per creature, and they've got 3 creatures they want to keep, that's already 15 life.
Yeah.
That's
per opponent.
Yeah, per opponent. That's huge. Well, anyway, so that does quite a lot of removal. We've already talked before that about we have some creatures that can become really, really big, and some other smaller creatures that when they get through, they give us a lot of nice functionality. So it would be lovely if we could make them unblockable. So let's have a look at the unblockable cards. First unblockable card is Aqueous Form for just 1 blue mana. It's very inexpensive. It's an aura. You pop on one of your guys, that creature can't be blocked, and on top of that, whenever an enchanted creature attacks, you get to scry 1.
Yeah, of course, again, it's an enchantment aura. When the creature gets removed, this is removed too. Yeah, that's not nice, but still, it's just 1 mana, scrying. Well, you can pop this on an early creature like Duxus of Melodies or the Augury Adept, or later on a big threat, or of course Oloro to deal commander damage. Just has a lot of versatility.
Yeah. The options are endless. We move on to Steel of the Godhead for 2 colorless and hybrid mana, either white or blue. We got an enchantment, an aura, and it states that as long as enchanted creature is white, it gets +1/+1 and lifelink. As long as the creature is blue, it gets +1/+1 and unblockable. This is a perfect target for Oloro.
Yeah, of course, for Oloro, it's a lot more synergistic in this deck, a lot more thematic because of the lifelink. Again, it can be removed, and you don't want Oloro to get removed that easily with an enchantment on it. But again, you can put this on Duxus of Melodies or the Augury Adept, and they will even become bigger and unblockable because they are also both blue and white. Pretty good.
Yeah, actually, those are really awesome targets for us as well. That's great, great work. If you don't like the idea of people targeting your creatures and getting rid of them, then you cast Protective Bubble for 3 colorless and a blue. It's an aura that states enchant creature. Enchanted creature is unblockable and has Shroud. Now, that's annoying.
That's very annoying. Exactly. Well, the Shroud is very, very important. It's 4 mana, a lot more than the Aqueous Form, but it's that much more good that we just added it.
Yeah, because of the protection. Yeah, it's huge. Just pop that on your Asera avatar, and that's game. Whisper Silk Cloak is a great, great artifact for 3 colorless and costs 2 to equip. It states equipped creature is unblockable and has Shroud. Familiar?
Yeah, very, very good. It's added in a lot of decks. Well, of course, it's a lot more expensive to cast and equip. Well, a little. It's 5.
Yeah. Just 1 more.
Yeah, well, just 1 more. But still, it stays on the table when the creature gets removed.
Yeah, that's going to come in handy. Jessian Balm Giver is a creature for a colorless, a white, and a blue mana. It's a 1/1 guy that states tap him, prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to target creature or player. But it also has tap target creatures unblockable this turn. That's why it's here.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's here. It could be used to prevent some damage. This also doesn't target, so that's very easily done. Of course, you can just make any creature unblockable by tapping this one. The downside is that it gets removed quite easily because it's just a 1/1.
And on top of that, it can work on the turn it comes in, unlike the enchantments or the artifacts if you've got the mana. Amphin Path Mage costs 3 colorless and a blue. You get a 3/2 guy, it's pretty big for that price. And on top of that, for 3 mana, of which 1 blue, you can make a target creature unblockable. You can actually do it if you got 6 mana, you can do it to 2 creatures.
Yeah, that's very nice. Of course, it also is a little bigger. It could make itself unblockable. Very nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, those were the unblockable cards. That means we've looked at all the functional cards we've got in the deck, and as always, we cannot cast any of these cards unless we have the right mana distribution in the form of lands. So let's have a look at the lands. For the lands, we've got 12 plains, 2 islands, 8 swamps, and another 18 non-basic lands. Let's have a look at the non-basic lands. First, we've got Kabira Crossroads. Kabira Crossroads comes in tapped, but the great thing about it is that it gives us 2 life when it comes in, and later can tap for a white mana.
Yeah, just very thematic in this deck.
Yeah.
Just a 2 life. It does get in tap, but it's just that thematic that we put it in.
It's always nice to get a little extra 2, just to really reinforce to people we're getting a lot of life. And it doesn't even stop at other cards, even our lands are doing that. Then we move on to Azorius Guildgate. It comes in tapped as well, gives us either a white or a blue mana.
Pretty simple, dual land.
Exactly, same as Coastal Tower, it's exactly the same. Also the same as Tranquil Cove, except with Tranquil Cove you also gain a life when it comes in. That's nice.
In this deck.
Nice little extra guy. And that's actually exactly the same as Sigiri Refuge, also gives us a life. Then we go to Orsov Guildgate, comes in tap, but this one gives us a white mana and a black.
Or a black, yeah.
Yeah, white or black, absolutely. Which we need. Then we also get Scoured Barrens, which is the same except it also gives us a life. So we're going to be stupid with life.
We are.
We're getting life everywhere. Orsov Basilica doesn't give us life, but it when it comes in tapped, you return a land back to your hand, and Orsov Basilica actually does give a white and a black.
Yeah, this is some form of card advantage actually, because well, it's just 2 lands all in one.
Yeah.
2 mana in 1 land.
So what you could do is you could, on turn 2, for example, you could use those 2 mana to cast something, then return one of those tapped lands, pop down the tapped Orsov Basilica. The next turn you have your 3 mana, as you should, and you can pop down the land you just put in your hand onto the table.
Exactly.
Pretty good. Dimir Guildgate gives us much needed blue mana, and it also gives us the option for black mana. Comes in tapped though. Same as the Salt Marsh, same as the Frost Marsh, and the same as the Juar Isle Refuge, except that one gives us an extra life when it comes in. So does the Dismal Backwater, exactly the same, also gives us an extra life. Then we get to the Vivid lands. Because we have the 3 colors, this time we included Vivid Meadow, Vivid Creek, and Vivid Marsh. The Vivid Meadow gives us white mana, Creek blue, and Marsh gives us black. They come in tapped, but they come in with 2 counters, and you can always pay one of those, remove one of those counters, sorry, and then you get a mana of any color.
Yeah, that's just very nice. It just gives us 1 or 2 times with the other 2 colors we really need. Very good.
Very necessary in a 3-color deck. We top it all off with what we always top these multicolored decks with.
3 color, yeah, then we do.
Also the dual color. We don't leave home. Well, except for we can go into this, but the point is that they're very good. Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds come in, you tap them, sacrifice them, look through your library for a basic land card, and put that one into the table tapped.
Yeah, this is of course very nice when we have all the colors and we don't need all the dual white, 2 white, 3 white for like Sarah Avatar or something. We might want to get a swamp if we don't have that, because the most chances are that we could have a Jorabai Murk Lurker, which get bigger from that, and of course the Extort creature Cryptghast, which gives us 2 black mana from a swamp. So if we have everything we need, we will get a swamp with this. Exactly. If we don't, well, we need something else, we just grab it, of course.
Yeah, it's always useful, basically. Well, those were the lands. Let's go have a look at the conclusion. So in conclusion, this deck is a lot of fun. If you like gaining an absurd, and I mean an absurd amount of life, then this is a deck for you. You're gonna top 70, 80 life during a game, maybe even higher. The only thing you're really afraid of is commander damage. On top of that, as you're gaining life, you get to make a lot of very interesting choices because you're gaining life, and then you can draw more cards, and then you got so many cards in your hand, you're always going to have a lot of options, and you got so much life that people say, I attack you with my 3/3 flyer, and you just scoff at them, you wave your hand nonchalantly, and you take off the life, and you just have a good laugh. Other people might not find that amusing, and they might ban against you. Still, the sheer amount of life you're going to be gaining makes it a lot of fun, and also gives you kind of a more peaceful attitude. You're more zen at the table, I feel. I don't know if that's what you're going for.
You might be.
What do you think?
Well, I think this deck has a lot of synergy cards, a lot of jaw dropping combinations. Well, I already discussed some of those. It might not be the easiest deck to play, so I wouldn't play it if I were a beginner of this Magic game, of course.
Which is kind of funny because beginners usually really
That's
like
true.
life gain. That's something that when you really start out the game and you hear somebody go, oh, you can do this card and then you're going to be gaining life every turn, people are like, but then, you know, I'll never lose.
Yeah.
I can't lose the game anymore. So if you're going to play this, or you're going to offer this deck to somebody who's a beginner, then you really need to sit down and explain. Watch this video, pretty much.
Yeah, watch the video. Yeah, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Well, of course, just like David said, they really like it, and they will like the deck, but they won't really get all the combos because it's just not the easiest deck. That's what I want to say.
But then you can grow into it, which makes it
That
also a
is-
deck that you can really, every time you play it, you can find new combinations. So it's actually a whole Pandora's box of fascination.
Yeah, and then somebody tells you about the combinations after a few games, and you're like, oh, that's very cool. You can do this stuff too with the deck, not only gaining a lot of life and putting down some small creatures, just very big stuff to do with this deck.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the deck is very affordable. Of course, within our format, well, every deck has to be affordable. It's just below $36. We did this calculations with magiccards.info, and we used all the medium prices when they did compare those prices in a lot of shops in the United States and other countries. So you really can make this deck for under $36, which is very nice. And actually, this might be not one of our more expensive decks, but it's not the cheapest deck either. But still, it's $36, which is just amazing.
Especially for the amount of life you gain.
That's true. Yeah.
So if you look at it, average how much life you gain per game, and then see how much you're paying, I mean, it's pennies on the dollar then, really, per point of life. Yeah. What I'm going to ask you is to subscribe, because it's very important to us to know who's watching these videos, so we can tailor our videos especially for you, make more videos that you find very interesting. We want to hear feedback, we want to hear comments, we want to see likes on our videos. So please do that for us. It doesn't cost you anything, it's free, and it helps us out a lot, and it makes us feel warm and fuzzy inside, knowing that we're doing something good. Ruud doesn't agree, but I feel good
I do.
when I do. Yeah? Okay, awesome. Good that you're on board with that. A little late if anything, but that's cool. Hey, Ruud, you have a question of the day for us.
Yeah. The question of the day is, which other cards that allow you to pay life would be powerful in this deck? You can leave your comments below this video. You can also find the deck list below this video. You can just click the link. It says something like bit.ly and then something else. Well, that might be it.
Yeah, that's it. I'm David.
And I'm Ruud.
And this was Budget MTG Decks.